This is Mr. Stumbaugh. We are on Chapter 2, Lesson 1, or 2-1. It is titled Writing Equations, but it's basically known as Understanding Word Problems. I know I hear a lot of complaints about word problems. Generally, it's because you have no idea what's going on. Hopefully, we can fix this. This chapter and lesson in particular is very similar to 1-1 when we were writing expressions, but there's a big difference. This time we now have an equal sign, and I will get to that. So our word problem says, the Daytona 500 is widely considered to be the most important event of the NASCAR circuit. The distance around the track is 2.5 miles, and the race is a total of 500 miles. Write an equation to determine how many laps it takes to finish the race. We need to write down what we know from this word problem. The distance around the track is 2.5 miles, and the race total is 500 miles. The number of laps in the race, that is what we are trying to find out. In this case, they only want us to write the equation. They don't want us to solve. So we know the lap length times the number of laps is the length of the race in miles. I definitely forgot to label that. Lap length is 2.5 times, we multiply the number of laps. We'll use our variable, in this case L. Here's where it's different. You'll see is. When you see is, you know we have an equal sign. Or it will say equals, and then the length of the race is 500 miles. When you have the labels on there, if we wanted to solve for our variable, we would basically divide both sides by 2.5 miles. And then miles over miles, they would cancel out, and we'd be left with just a number, and that would be the number of laps in the race. Sometimes we have just an equation like this to where they want you to rewrite it. They don't necessarily need you to solve or simplify anything. They just need to rewrite it. And they'll have 7 times a number squared is 5 times the difference of k and m. So we have 7 times, we're multiplying, a number squared, so n squared. Here's our is, that means it's our equal sign, 5 times the difference of k and m, we put in parentheses. If you wanted to rewrite it, it would be 7n squared equals 5 times the quantity k minus m. In this word problem, it gives you some information. In 1919, Britain and France offered a flight that carried 2 passengers at a time. Now there are approximately 45,000 flights each day in the United States, carrying hundreds of passengers on each flight. First thing we want to do is kind of identify our numbers in this. We see 2 passengers, that's a number. 45,000 flights, that's a number. Each day, that is a number, each meaning 1. And hundreds of passengers, there's another number, even though it is not very specific. So then we get to our question down here. Refer to the above information, and how many days will 180,000 flights have occurred in the United States? So we don't need to know anything about the passengers. So we can go up here and we can just cross out 2 passengers, 100 passengers. We don't need any of that. What we need to know is the number of days, the number of flights that we have. We know there's 45,000 flights, 45,000 each day, so one day, and we need to see how many days it would take to get to 180,000. Since we're multiplying here, all we have to do is divide both sides by 45,000. We'll have the number of days by itself. 180,000 divided by 45,000 is 4. It would take 4 days to reach 180,000 flights, about, because this says approximately. But the number they will be looking for is 4. Then you will have formula stuff. Ignore this right here momentarily. They will say a formula that you should already know that we went over. The area of a triangle equals the product of half the length of the base, and the height. So we write down what we know. Area of the triangle, equals, there's our equal sign, the product of, so we know we're multiplying, 1/2 the length of the base, so 1/2 base, and since we're doing product, we multiply, and height goes here. You just rewrite it, A equals 1/2 base times height. Alright, then they'll give you the equation and they want it in words. So we need to say something along the lines of the sum of, meaning we're going to group this whole thing together and we're going to be adding y squared here, and that's our plus sign, 3 times x is, that's our equal sign, w. Something along the lines of that. It could be y squared plus 3 times x equals w. Anything close to that will work. Then they're going to say, write a problem based on the given information. They're going to give you some information and they want you to write your own word problem. So in this case, the information they give in this example, t will equal the time that Maxine drove, and t plus 4 is the time that Tia drove. And they will give you an equation, 2t plus quantity t plus 4 equals 28. And they want us to write a word problem from that. So their sample answer would be something along the lines of, Maxine and Tia went on a trip and they took turns driving. During her turn, Tia drove 4 more hours than Maxine, which we knew from t plus 4. Maxine took 2 turns, that's where we get 2t, and Tia took 1 turn, so t plus 4 is just times 1. Together they drove for 28 hours, which is this 28 they got. How many hours did Maxine drive on one of her turns? So we've covered the 2t, we've covered t plus 4, and we've covered the 28. And we have our word problem, and we have our question to try and find our variable. Your homework for this lesson, you should have already started and probably finished your vocab, the 22 terms on page 139. And then you have the book pages 77 through 80, number 2 through 44, do the evens. And then turn the page, skip down at the very bottom, do number 60 and 62. See you in class.